Brother Blanket coming this way. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm certainly glad to see everybody. It's a beautiful day. It is an absolute beautiful day. Let's see. We had some birthdays. Jillian had a birthday the other day. Yay! And then let's see, who else? Kathy's coming up. Any anniversaries? Ashley and Lee are having an anniversary today, but Ashley's not here, but that's okay. We have some members that haven't been able to come to church for a while because they've been out sick. And the ones that, the Williams, do we have an update on the Williams, Gladys and Galen? Gladys and Galen?
I think they're still at the nursing home.
Still at the nursing home.
But yesterday, I think it was, they were able to leave the nursing home and go around to Vivian for a little while.
Okay.
And visit with their whole family. So
Okay, so they're doing better.
they're doing better.
Yes. Oh boy, that's big. That's big. And then let's see, Dad's here. Yay. The Mr. Baker, and then the Bumsteads. Just kind of remember them. In fact, remember them, not just kind of, but remember them in your prayers, as we go forward. In fact, let's start. Let's have a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the beautiful day that you've given us. Thank you for the sun that shines and the wind that blows. Father, it reminds us that, Father, you are in control of all things. Father, this morning as we enter into the study of Matthew, let us be mindful of the words that are here, the power of your word, the message that's delivered to us. Thank you so much for the love you have for us day in and day out. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, does everyone have a book? Need a book? I have one left. Going once? Going twice? Y'all have a book? Do you need one? Or is yours in there?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You have, or need this one? Oh, man, it's already started. All right, we're looking at chapter 2 in our book. We're looking at page 9, and this is the story that we probably have heard from the very beginning of our lives. This is where Jesus is born and the wise men come, and King Herod goes about his business. And we answer this. And in fact, a couple weeks ago, Dad asked this about, we talk about the wise men. And we always say the three wise men. Have you ever heard that? The three wise men. We're going to talk about that a little bit. How did that come about? Where is that? Is that true that there are three wise men? I just thought it was kind of interesting because three wise men. That's a story I know. Nowhere in here does it say three wise men. Three gifts, and everybody just assumed I did, okay. But again, there's no said verse in here that says three wise men. All right, let's look at page 9 in our books. And we'll just start out by going through the true and false. And this will help start us and get us revved up. The wise men came the night Jesus was born. True or false? False. It took them time to travel to get there. It wasn't like, okay, they were told and they showed up. And we'll look at some of the verses that back that up. So that's a false statement. It took them a little bit of time. The Bible says, here it is, there were three wise men. True or false? False. There were three gifts that they talk about, and we'll talk a little bit about.
There may have been three, but no one knows.
Well, there may have been just three, but no one knows. Nowhere in the Bible, as Dad says, does it say there were three. Gives us a number. Just says the wise men, the Magi. I thought that was interesting. The Jesus' birth in Bethlehem was fulfilling a prophecy. True or false? Did Jesus' birth in Bethlehem fulfill a prophecy? Yeah, I had to go and look this up. It's in Micah chapter 5, verse 2, that talks about it and specifically states in Bethlehem, you will have a leader, a king, that will be born to you. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, there it is. It sets it up. And then question 4, Herod truly wanted to worship Jesus. True or false? False. What was Herod's intent? He wanted to kill him. Why? Why did King Herod want to kill Jesus?
Well, they said he was king.
King of the Jews was born, and he was fearful that Jesus was going to come and take his job. So he made it out, oh yeah, tell me all about it, so I too can go and worship him. When in fact, he had destruction in his heart, and he wanted to kill him. So that was not true. All right, number 5, Mary was still in the stable when the wise men came. True or false? False. Verse 11 talks about that. They'd moved to the house. Remember when they got there late in the evening? Everything was full because it was time for the count. So they had to stay out in the stable. Well, in the Bible, verse 11 says they were in the house. So probably the house adjoining the stable. So they weren't in the stable, they were in the house. Verse 6, God warned the wise men about Herod. True or false? True. In verse 12, he warns them. He said, don't trust this guy. He is not a good guy. His intents are bad. So that's false. 7, Joseph was told to flee to Babylon. True or false? False. Where was he to go to? Egypt. Yeah, it was to go to Egypt. Number 8, the weeping over the death of infants fulfilled a prophecy. True or false?
True.
True. That was true. And again, in here we go through, and reading the prophets in the Bible is really a hard assignment. If you've ever had to go through it, just as a study, it's hard to read that because I don't. Now, maybe some of the biblical scholars in here have the ability to do that where you say, oh, well, this is what that means. This is what that means. I don't have that depth and breadth of knowledge. So for me to read that, it's hard to go through and it's like, oh, yeah, that's really interesting. But when you go through and then it says, well, according to the prophet, and you go backwards, like we had to do with Micah, then you go back, oh, that's what that means. That's what that means. Then it's a little more meaningful. But, boy, when you're just sitting there reading it page after page, it's hard for me. Maybe some of you others, not so much. All right. Number 9, Joseph decided on his own to return to Israel. True or false? False. Who told him? Angel of God came and said, this is what you need to do. I mean, can you imagine, here you are, you're laying down in bed, and a voice comes to you, and it's the angel of God. I mean, let me ask you this, and I thought about this as I was going through this study. Have you ever had a dream that's been so vivid? I mean, it's real tangible, that's visceral. And you're like, and then you wake up and you're like, what was that all about? Can you imagine this? And it didn't happen to him once. How many times did this happen? Just in this reading. How many times did an angel of God come to him? Multiple times. Several times asking, or not asking, but telling him things. Do this, do that, don't worry about this. But again, in our own dream life, sometimes you have those vivid dreams, you're like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool, or it was kind of panicky, or whatever it is. But here's the angel of God saying, this is what you need to do. Don't worry about this. God's got this. And how much of a benefit would that be to him and to us if we just would listen sometimes? You know, and again, we get messages from people all the time in our interactions. People try and guide us and like that. And have you ever had that where someone has told you something and then weeks later you find that it's come true and you're like, where'd that come from? How did they know? Not that I'm saying that they're an angel of the Lord, but I mean, sometimes people tell you things because they know things and it comes true and it's like, wow, okay, that was kind of cool. Yeah, so-and-so told me this, so-and-so. But in this instant, again, he didn't do it on his own. An angel came. And then number 10, Jesus was called a Nazarene. True or false? True. Verse 23 talks about that. It addresses that. So all of these questions as we go through there were in the chapter as we read forward and go through this. Now, if you had, some questions, you could go back and you could look in your commentaries and like that. And that's what I have to do that all the time, because I assure you, I'm not one of those biblical scholars that you guys are. I have to look in and say, well, now what does this mean? How does that go? And when you look in the commentary, it says, well, go look in this. Go look in this book to fulfill that. So I appreciate the fellows that write the commentaries. Here's some discussion questions on 2. Now again, it talks about, here the Magi come, here's the birth, here is, the messenger of God telling Joseph what to do. Look over the horizon. This is what's going to happen. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. This is that. So as we look at this, again, this just fills in some of the blanks as we've gone through this study. Question number 1 in the discussion questions. Where was Jesus born? Bethlehem. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. We see that in verse 1, chapter 2. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem, in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who was born? So again, it talks about that. In the day of King Herod. Which Herod was this?
Herod the Great.
Herod the Great. Again, I had to look that up because it doesn't say that in the Bible, but it does say that in the commentary. Herod the Great. So I'm very thankful again for that. All right, who came from the east? Wise men. Doesn't say 3, just say who came from the east. Who were the wise men? What were they called?
Magic, whatever it was.
Yeah, they were magic. The Magi. So that was good. All right. So what was their specialty? What made them special? What they were? Say it again. They studied astronomy. What else? And again, I had to look it up. They were men of science, so they did astrology. So they looked. They were men of nature, so they had a feel for what was going on. And they had some medicine, so they studied some medicine. Now, I can't imagine what it would be like studying medicine all those thousands of years ago. But there are things that they did back then that we do today in modern medicine, which I find absolutely phenomenal. It's like, how about this? How many of you have a jar of honey at your house? Use that. Use it to cook with or put on things like that. You can use honey as a medicinal agent. It doesn't rot, doesn't go away. It gets hard and you have to toss it because all the moisture gets out of it. But you can use it as an antiseptic. And there are wound care creams that we use today that have honey in that, which I think is just fantastic. The Egyptians, when they did wound care and that, they put honey on wounds. So here these men from battle would come, they'd have all these wounds on them, they would put honey on that as a medicinal to keep that from becoming infected. I just thought that was fantastic. So again, some of the things they did there that we do today, I just think it's just cool. It's just cool. All right, question 3. Why had the wise men come from the east? Why had the wise men come from the east? They lived there. That's what I wrote. They lived there. And I wrote down where they lived, where they came from. Persia, Chaldea, Arabia. They lived there. That's why they came from the east. So it's not like they could get on a plane and fly in, get on a boat. They lived there. They had to walk. So it took them some time to get there. Give 2 or 3 reasons why we know the wise men did not come at night, the night Jesus was born. So here was the star. Now, how do we know that they didn't show up that same night? They had to follow the star. So that took them, Brian? Say it again. Well, by the time they got there, they were already in the house. So they went from the manger into the house. So that would have taken a day. But they had to go before King Herod because Herod found them and said, hey, you guys come visit with me. It just took time to move from one place to the next. It could have been months, could have been an extended period of time. We'll talk about the years. Talk about that. Why did it take? And it explains that. You know, later on when Herod got really mad, well, we'll talk about that. But it took a little bit of time to get there. So it didn't happen the same night. It did not happen the same night. What else? So they had to follow the star. They traveled from the east, took a little bit of time. They met with Herod. Anything else? Those are the three main ones. I think that was good as we look at just logistics from where they're at to where they had to go. Yeah, it took some time to get there. And again, Herod wasn't along the way with them. They had to go see him. So that took a little bit of time. All right, let's look at question 4. Why was Herod and all of Jerusalem troubled at the inquiries of the wise men? Why were they troubled? Why were they troubled? We've said it. Here is now the king of the Jews coming. Herod was the king then. He was troubled personally. Somebody's going to take away my kingdom, my power. He didn't want any part of that. He wanted to remain the sole power.
How long do you think Herod reigned? If Jesus was only about 2 or 3 years old at the time, he would have to get to be an adult before he got to be king.
Right.
Herod could have been dead by then.
But he didn't think that far ahead, but he was nervous about that. He didn't want to have any trouble. So that's why he went about the business of trying to get rid of him. All right, so just a successor to the throne, here it comes. Herod was jealous about that. Didn't want to have any part of that. Number 5, who did Herod gather together? So he finds out about this. Who did he go and get with? Who did he ask to come visit with him? Who did he ask to come visit with him? The chief priests and the scribes of the law. Those that were the note takers, the teachers of the law. He got with them. Why did he want the chief priests and the scribes of the law? Why did he want the lawyers and the chief priests? Why did he want that? Was he trying to build an alliance with them? To say, oh, I'm a good king. This one's going to be an imposter. Doesn't really talk about that. But why would he meet with them? Maybe to set up a defense mechanism. To say, this is where I'm at. This is why we need to do this. And then why did he do that? Well, one, he wanted to ask, where is Christ going to be born? That was probably his main thing. Where is he going to be born? Where is? Remember, Christ means the anointed one, and Herod was nervous about that. So he wanted to know, where is he going to be born? For jealous reasons. We'll talk a little bit further along why that was. All right, let's look on page 10. Question 6. What prophet foretold the place of Jesus' birth? And that was over in Micah, chapter 5, verse 2. Again, I had to look that up. I didn't know. So I was like, okay. And then what did the prophet say this one would do? What did Micah say this one would do? What did he say in that Bible verse? What did he say? That he will rule over Jerusalem, or Israel, not Jerusalem. He would rule over Israel. So that's what Micah foretold. So there's the prophecy fulfilled with that, which is a good thing. And again, trying to read those from jump, not so good for me. But when you piece it back to say, well, how does that apply to where I'm reading now? You go back, oh, that's what they were saying. Okay. Then it makes it, for me anyway, it made it easier. All right. Let's look at number 7. What injury did Herod make? What inquiry did Herod make of the wise men? Not injury. What inquiry? What was his big question? Where is he? And where did the star? When did the star show? And just like Ray said, he wanted to know the timeline. And again, as we talked about how long it took him to get from point A to point B, it could have been a couple of years. We don't know that, but as you piece this all together, then the pieces start to fall in together because he makes a decision based on a timeline. So he's asking, hey, where was this? How did this? So he's asking him, what time did the star appear? And then question 8, name at least 3 things Herod told the wise men to do. What did he tell them to do? The wise men. What did he tell the wise men, the Magi? What did he tell them to do? Go find him. Yeah. Go to Bethlehem to do what? Find him. Then next, bring word to me where he's at. So he says, okay, go to Bethlehem, find him, and then come back and tell me what it is, where he's at. And again, all of that was not because he said, because he says in the Bible, it says, because I want to worship him. Is that a true statement? Well, we know, no, it's not. His intent was not to worship him, bow down, because he said that. Well, I want to worship him too. His intent was to destroy him because he felt threatened. So he said, well, let me know where he's at so I too can worship him. Yeah, he was not a good guy. He was not a good guy. All right, let's look. Number 9, what led the wise men to the child? The star. What did the wise men do when they saw the star? They rejoiced. They were happy about that. Look, there it is. There's the star. Let's go. That's where we need to go. They were happy about that because they knew that their travels were coming and being fulfilled. What statement in verse 11 shows the wise men did not come at night? What did it say in verse 11? Verse 11. What does it say? Yeah, on coming to the house. And we talked about that, the very first thing. On coming to the house. Remember, Jesus was born in the manger. Well, now it says on coming to the house. So you know that was a few days later, not that same one. What did the wise men do upon seeing Mary and the child? What did they do? Yeah, that's what it says. And they bowed down and worshiped him immediately. They didn't have this, well, let's talk about this. Their goal was, the whole time they were traveling, well, I can't wait to see him. And when they got to see him, they bowed down and worshiped him. That was cool, I thought. They were like, okay, this is what our task was. We've done this, and look, here we are before him. And what did they present to Jesus? The gifts, that's right. And what about verse 11? Make people think there were 3 wise men, and here it is right here. The gifts, what were the gifts that they gave to him? It lists 3, gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
They could have gave him more gifts, it just doesn't list them.
It could have been more, that's right. But those...
When you go to somebody,
Yeah.
because it says gold, that was their form of money back then.
Right. It could have been a whole host of things. Yeah.
5 people and everybody gave him some money.
Right, and that's exactly, it could have been. It could have been 5 or 6, and they said, well, I've got some gold too. I've got some myrrh. I've got some incense. I've got this. Yeah, okay. So it could have been more than 3. But again, just as I said, well, yeah, it says 3. There's got to be 3 guys. Could have been way more than that. And they had multiple gifts of the same type. So multiple people could have given gold. Multiple could have given frankincense.
But
So
typically in that time when people traveled, they didn't travel in small groups.
and they didn't travel in, Don makes a good point. They didn't travel in small groups. Why is that? Maybe to conserve resources?
That, and they took their food with them. They take their animals.
They took everything with them. Could have been tribal. Could have been like that. There could have been a group of people that went. And then out of, probably, you're traveling through the middle of nowhere, how about protection? Going from point A to point B, driving from, Kuntz to Silsby, maybe not such a big deal. But if you're going across the desert, when you're going from Tucson to Phoenix, there's some areas that there's nothing out there. Like I just remember as a kid going from Anaheim, California, going out to Las Vegas with my parents as a kid. There's parts that there's nothing there. It's just desert. For miles and miles and miles, you see nothing but highway straight ahead. So when you see the sign, last stop for gas for the next 100 miles, you better stop and get gas or water or whatever it is, because there's nothing out there. So they traveled in probably large groups just to protect themselves. And their families were with them, so they'd have all the resources with them. That's all good points. All good points. Good one. Why did the wise men not return to Herod? They were warned by God in a dream. Don't return. Don't go back to him. They were told, don't do this. The powerful word of God came to them and said, don't go back. Just go on about and go on home and do that. Warning in a dream. Who appeared to Joseph? Question 13, an angel. Right. What was Joseph told to do? Brian, he was told to go to Egypt. Well, he told him several things along the way. All right. But in this case, flee to Egypt. Why? Question 13. Why was Herod was going to kill the baby? Herod was going to kill the child. When did Joseph depart? As soon as he arose, that next day, he woke up. He had the dream. I don't know what time, it doesn't say, but he had a dream. As soon as the sun came up, he was gone. He didn't waste any time and say, well, let me think about this.
Well, it says he went by night.
Well, he went, as soon as he arose is what, yeah. So, maybe the sun hadn't even come up and he said, I'm out here.
Well, I mean, when it says in verse 14, it says, and he rose and took his child and mother by night.
Yeah.
And his mother by night.
Okay, well, there it
and
is.
departed Egypt.
Okay, and left. Yeah, mine doesn't say that, but yeah, he didn't waste any time. He said, I'm getting out of here, I'm going, and he did not waste any time at all. He got him, took the child's mother at night, so there it is. Boom, he didn't wait. He just said, I'm going to go. Well, yeah, can you imagine that? Yeah, could have woke up from the dream and said, whoa, I got to go now. Yeah.
My
Hey,
translation in verse 13, the first thing it tells them to do is arise.
yeah, arise.
Wake up, get out.
Yeah. Go. Don't waste any time.
Somebody tells you they're coming to kill your kid, as soon as you realize they don't matter what time it is, you're going.
Yeah, someone tells you that, yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, someone tells you, hey, I'm coming. All right. How long did Joseph stay in Egypt? Question 14. How long did he stay in Egypt? Until Herod died. So here was the one who was wanting to kill his child. When he died, Herod died, then he said, okay, I can leave. I can go. What prophecy was fulfilled and who spoke it? And again, I had to go back in through my commentary to find that. This was Hosea, chapter 11, verse 1 is the one who prophesied that. So not that I knew, but my commentary guided me back to that. So I'm like, okay, thank you. So that was a good one. All right, question 15. How did the departure of the wise men affect Herod? He was exceedingly, is what my Bible, he was exceedingly upset. He was really mad. He was really mad. He felt really threatened by this. So he was not a happy fellow. And what did he determine to do? What did he do next? You know, it says he killed, and this goes to Ray's part, how long it took the wise men to get there, 2 years. He went throughout the land and did what? Well, mine says 2 years. 2 years. So every male child, 2 years and under. So that just reinforces how long it took the wise men to get there. It was years to get there. It didn't happen. So he wanted to make sure, so he said to his soldiers, every male child 2 years and younger, I want you to kill him. Wow. Now, it doesn't say how many that was, but I'm sure it was a number that was a big number. Man, that guy was something else, wasn't he? Killed them all. Killed them all. Why did Herod decide 2 years? According to the time of from the wise men. All right, number 16. In what was Jeremiah's prophecy fulfilled at the time? Jeremiah 31:15. Talks about where this was located, why they were fulfilled at the time. And again, it just builds back into that was told hundreds and hundreds of years before this is going to happen. And it did. So all of those prophecies came true. Number 17. When did an angel next appear to Joseph? When did it happen next? And to follow up with that, what did he reveal to Joseph? What did he tell him? So here again, he comes to him next in a dream. And what does he tell him to do? get up and go to Israel. So it's like, okay, so he's following the directions of God. So an angel of God comes and tells him this is what you need to do, and now we have a history. He doesn't waste any time. He does not waste any time. Just as Brian and Don said, as soon as that dream was over, they got up. Whatever time that was in the middle of the night, they left. Same thing. He's got all of this, so he's like, okay, I'm following this. I'm doing the best I can. 18. What was Joseph's response to the angel's direction? He arose and took the baby and left. He didn't think about it. He didn't say, well, let's talk about it. Let me get with my friends. He immediately followed the instruction that was given to him. Immediately followed the instruction that was given to him. So it's like, okay, that's good. All right, number 19 on page 11. Let's look at page 11. Number 19. Why was Joseph afraid to go into Judea? Why was he afraid?
Herod's son was in charge.
Yes. A family member was in charge. And he was like, oh, man, if he was out, what about this? So it's like, okay. You ever know family members or families that you just say, just don't mess with them. Just don't mess with that whole family. They're all just, leave them alone. Just leave them alone. Same thing here. Just leave them alone. You don't want to have any part of that. Don't go near there. And that was what Joseph was afraid of. Why do I want to do this? And that's because another family member. Why did he decide to go to Galilee? Another dream. Another angel came and said, well, here's why you need to go here. Here's this. So he followed and he said, oh, okay, I got it. I'm listening. I'm hearing exactly what you're telling me. I'm hearing exactly what you're telling me. How many of you ever done science experiments in school? So you get a list of instructions. So you say, okay, and it walks you through, or build something, make something. It gives you a list of instructions. How many of you have ever said, I've done this before, and I don't need to read the instructions. I'm going to go about the business of starting this up. You ever done that? Yeah, I got electrocuted or shocked really bad one time because I know what I'm doing. Yeah, 463 face, knocked me about 20 feet back. Yeah, I never, ever did that again. I don't need to, I got this. Well, if you're doing like an experiment and you're mixing chemicals together and it blows up, yeah, I got this. Or you're putting cabinets together, you're putting something together, you're wiring it up or screwing it together and like this. Well, why does it tilt like this? Well, why doesn't this, well, because you got it on backwards or you didn't this. Yeah, read the instructions. It'll save you a lot of time. It will absolutely save you a lot of time. Or I've done that before. It's okay. Read the instructions step by step. And if you're like me, you kind of check them off as you go. Okay, I got this. When in doubt, read the instructions. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's like, okay. So he listened. All right, number 20. In what city did he dwell? Nazareth. And why did he reside there? Why did he go there? Prophecy. Fulfill the prophecy. Where is this prophecy found? I had to look it up through my commentary. Isaiah 11, verse 1. Talks about why all of this happened. Again, as we're going through this, I liked it because it made me go back and reread or find where I've not read the prophecies. I couldn't tell you. I had to go back through. And again, I'm glad I had some instruction through the commentary that walked me back through. You know, these fellows that write these commentaries are it's just a lot of fun. But I'm sure they took their time when they're writing this, say, well, this is where this was. This is where this was. And they're sharing it with us, bringing us along with them, which I really appreciate, these authors. So as we look at all of this, we're going back through, okay, it said this hundreds and hundreds of years before in prophecy. This is the fulfillment of all these prophecies. Everything was for a purpose. Everything had this. This is why that happened. This is how this happened. So again, Herod was not a nice guy. He wanted to kill him. There are not 3 wise men. Could have been multiple. We don't have a number on that. Joseph moved forward step by step, listening to God. Brian? Where is this prophecy found? Isaiah 11, verse 1. Oh, there could be multiple prophecies, but that was the first one that I wrote down was just, yeah, it could be, we see it in multiple prophecies that this is fulfilled. But yeah, I just wrote down the first one I got, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1, fulfills that, or says that. There it is. So we've gone through, again, a lot of movement here. Here's the birth. Here's the wise men coming. Here's Herod saying, yeah, I want to know all about this because I want to worship him. And then the word comes and says, don't trust that guy. He's not worth, listening to. When you get there, rejoice. They rejoiced. When you leave, don't go back to tell Herod because he has ill intent. When Herod finds out they didn't come back to tell him, he's really mad. He kills every male child 2 years and younger. That's got to be just horrendous. I just can't imagine that. But again, trying to eliminate any threats that he has to his own power, which he ends up giving that up anyway because he dies. But again, at the time he's sensing, I need to keep this. I need to keep this power. I'm not gonna give it up. And then as Joseph moves forward, he's told multiple times by the word of God, here's your next steps. Here's your next steps. We probably do this every single day when we get up in the morning or throughout the day. Let me ask you this. Do you ever ask, you're confronted with something that's really vexing or it's really complex in front of you, and you sit back and you say, what am I going to do? What should I do? Do you ever pray on that and say, well, I need your help. I absolutely need your help. And so we pray on it. We seek to have that wisdom given to us. Sometimes we vex on things, we worry about things. Then we go ask our best friend, oh, Nora, can you tell me what I need to do? You ever had people coming to you and ask you that? What would you do in this circumstance? I've done that many times. Go to somebody that I trust that will give me the right answer. That. So again, God senses our weakness, knows what our weakness is. When we ask him, he will answer our prayers. We're told that many, many times. And it may not be the answer that you think, or it may not be the answer that you want to hear, and it may not be in your timeline. If you're like me, sometimes you get impatient. Yeah, I want something. I want it now. So you ask about it. Then like 20 minutes later, okay, where is it? Well, again, I know I've said many times, going to God in prayer is not like going and picking up the bottle off the shelf with the genie in it and you rub and you get 3 wishes. That is not how God acts. He doesn't do that. But we need to have our faith in him that will guide our steps, that will walk us through things. Or have you ever had a real big deal, a big issue come up, and it may be, weeks but it gets resolved? Have you ever gone back and said, thank you? Thank you, Father, for hearing and answering my prayer. And I'll tell you, sometimes I'm not very good at that. Oh, great, that got fixed, and I'm moving on to the next one. Instead of stopping for the moment and saying, thank you. So when you have those and those prayers are answered, just take a moment and say, thank you. And be thankful. And be appreciative of that. And again, God hears our prayers, and he is faithful to hear and answer our prayers. But it may not be in our timeline. So just know that. But again, he listens to us, and he wants us to follow and be a help to us, to guide our path, to help us move forward. Again, our goal is to get to heaven. That's what everybody's individual goal is to do, and then collectively to bring as many people as we can with us. God guards watches our steps, guides us, holds us. When we can't go any further, he'll carry us. Well, if we read Joseph, just his portion of this, how often did that happen? Every step of the way. Every step of the way. Every step of the way. God was there and said, I've got this. I'll help you. And he sent the helper, the angel, to tell him. All right, let's look at, again on 11, the questions here. Matching the following and give the verse. I didn't give the verse. I had it on another piece of paper, but I didn't write it on my book, so I'm not, I was taking notes. Sorry, so I don't have the verse on mine, but if you have it, share with us. All right, number one, Herod the king. And how does that relate to on the other side? So, Herod the king, and I put down for that, the answer was F. He was a troubled individual. He had a lot of insecurities. He was a troubled individual. And then next one, number two, the angel. I put down 2, appeared to Joseph many times. He appeared to Joseph many, many, many times. And then number 3, Herod, and I can't say the last part, Archelaus. I put down J, reigned in the room of his father. Then number 4, Rachel. Remember when the kids were killed? Rachel wept. And that's what it says. She was weeping for those children. Number 5, Jesus. And the list on the other side, A, King of the Jews. Jesus was King of the Jews. And then number 6, the star, and on the other side, went before them, was a guiding light to them. The star went before them. That's what they followed. Number 7, Joseph. I put down D. He departed into Egypt. Then number 8, Jeremy. Jeremy the prophet. 9, I put down C, in the land of Judea. And then lastly, number 10, Mary. B, the mother of Christ. I enjoyed this going through. Again, every page I get through, I get to learn a little bit more and that. So I'm appreciative of the book, and I'm appreciative of the commentaries and the Bible especially. But again, it's just kind of fun to go through and do this. It is for me, and I hope it is for you. Any comments or questions on this study? Now, next week, read ahead. We're going to be talking about chapter 3, lesson 4. So chapter 3 next week. Anything else? Listen, thank you all very much for your input this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much.